The basic idea behind the exhibition, Remembering Forward Australian Aboriginal Painting since 1960, has been to show this art as art. We, of course, knew, and especially Caspar Koenig has known about this art for a long time. It has become increasingly popular since the 1970s. But here, well, outside of Australia in particular, also in Germany, of course, this art is still largely unknown. And for that reason, a lot of questions have simply remained open. What role does this art play in the international art scene? What does it mean for a museum of modern and contemporary art to have an exhibition of these paintings that often look like they're abstract paintings, and yet we know there's so much more behind them? The great challenge of an exhibition like this one is, of course, to talk about what the place of Aboriginal art is. What does it mean for a museum like the Museum Ludwig that is fairly well known for large exhibitions of abstract painting, to bring in these paintings that look abstract, and we know that they're not. We know that there are many levels of complexity. Of course, Aboriginal art is a huge field. Australia is enormous. There are over 200 language groups of Aboriginal Australians still living, of course, keeping their own cultural traditions alive. So what does it mean if we say this is an exhibition of Aboriginal painting? It's so broad. The answer in this case is that we didn't want to make an exhibition any kind of survey exhibition. Rather than making a survey exhibition, we decided to look for specific artists whose work is particularly challenging, of course, particularly gripping and thrilling, even on a purely aesthetic level, and to use these artists in a way as examples for what has been going on since the 1970s, but also to say, okay, why is it that in Australia, in some of the remotest settlements of the world, people began painting in the 1970s and it rapidly became so successful, so popular, and so meaningful? Aside from placing great emphasis on the unique and highly personal, highly individual lives and works of the artists, it's equally important to understand this exhibition as a project that's about contemporary art. This is about what it means to take art from 9,000 miles or 14,500 kilometers away, bring it into a museum in the West and say, this is as relevant as everything else that's also in this building. We know less about it, we know less about the artists, but this is a challenge to what we thought the international art scene was about today. We thought that we knew what abstraction was, and we saw these paintings and said, oh wow, it looks really abstract. Here we have some op art, we have a few things that look a lot like Pollock, this looks like Sol LeWitt. And of course that's not what it's about at all. That's not anything that the artists were referencing in their work. And all of a sudden, we're learning to look at these images, having believed that they were abstract, and finding out that there are very deep stories behind them and that they are actually very specific depictions of times and places and people.